Hey guys, how's it going? We are now, what are we on? Oh wow, I think this is almost the last day of summer. Even though everybody's back in school and all that, but September 20th, 2018 on a Thursday night. So, yeah, I was a little busy last night. I didn't get really a big chance to even get too many sentences and thought out, but here and there I had chances, but you'd have to be paying attention the whole time. If you were, well, great, but some of you might, others might not. So what a lot's happened, or a lot has changed. I would say, I don't know, it was shortly after. Actually, it was after I posted that last video, if I recall. I think that's how it went, if I recall. But then again, my memory doesn't recall very well, even my short term. But anyways, between the not the last video I did, but the video before that, where I was looking at ways of starting from scratch with RTS, that's still valid, except now I have the distraction. And I jokingly called it the diverging approach. So the way the Southwest server used to work, and this was one of the reasons why it didn't really fit into for me very well, is because they often ran on the Tuesdays and Thursdays. And for those of you familiar with my schedule, the Tuesdays and Thursdays coincide with seeing my son. So basically, you know, I just got home a little while ago. I was just checking some of I was looking for ATCS antennas just now. I was checking some of the mail, just seeing what was going on there. That volume, I can't tell if the volume's going up or if it's pointed wrong or what's going on. No, it's not doing. Let's see here. I don't know what's changing it again. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's fine. Don't look like it is. Properties. Let's see. Levels. Oh, it's up there. Okay. Okay. Now I better stop looking at that. Maybe that'll make things better. Not much to show at the moment. There's not really much. I'll just be short and sweet, and maybe take on some YouTube for the night and call it a night. So yeah, what happened with the whole thing with the Southwest server was, suddenly after I stopped the video, put it up, it was getting pretty late at that point, but I was pretty excited for the direction that I was going to go next. I wasn't going to give up. Yeah, I gave up on the Run8 portion of integrating RTS2 with Run8, but then I basically ended that video. I was about ready to go to bed, but I decided to check my email, as I often do sometimes. Sometimes I'll go back into it, especially if it's a long video and I've been talking for a little bit. I just want to see if there's anything changed, or if anybody's posted any comments or stuff like that. And I noticed that the Southwest forum had some new posts, so I went into it just to see what was going on. And Mike had posted not just one at the time. There was only the one at the time, and then I realized there was a second one later the next day, I believe, that there was indeed not only was a Wednesday server scheduled, and it was the first one in a long time apparently, which is probably why I haven't been seeing them, but then there's one for next Monday. The session went pretty good. It's a little tricky to do the dividing lines with 3 dispatchers. It used to be very cut and dry with 2, but that was before Seligman in LA. And LA and Seligman are interesting challenges because they don't have the external dispatcher. And I kind of thought about that last night. I kind of thought, well, that's probably better than, because I really don't like dispatching without seeing the IDs. Well, I mean, you can see the IDs and all that, but I mean, you can go into the F3, but it's really tricky using the dispatcher, the regular dispatcher program, as opposed to going into the external dispatcher. I can't explain. You know, it's not so bad. It's a little bit more cumbersome in some ways, especially when you're trying to set up a lot of different things and trying to get your lights to cancel on you and stuff like that. So the external dispatcher has the advantage. Apparently, too, there was more talk about TSCAD, which I hadn't heard anything, but apparently that's being beta tested right now. So that may be coming soon. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that. As much as I gripe about, you know, how long it's been and how much I really want to do an external dispatcher of my own, the fact that there's something coming only gives myself and others more options. Speaking of options, of course, the fact that there is a Wednesday session and a Monday session. And it looks like this is going to become a regular thing. The Mondays may be Sundays. Well, that may play into me. It depends on when Sunday, but that's okay. I mean, even if I was to do it once a week, that's not a big deal. I'm cool with that. There's other people out there who can dispatch as well, and on those nights, those are the type of days where I may just want to run a main line for nostalgia's sake, and see what I like doing, or it's only 3-hour sessions. It's not a big deal. What I've had a difficult time over the course of the last 10 years with the Southwest server was I was finding that just because there was all these jobs that may or may not be available, I couldn't really plan my night. Well, when I'm dispatching, I know what I'm doing. Or at least when I, put it this way, when I post down that I'm interested in dispatching, it's a lot different because you're basically bidding on a job. And then Mike has final say or whatever, or it's arranged. But I know ahead. I know right now all the way next Monday. I know what I'm doing. Now, I may not know what territory I'm dispatching. That hasn't really been settled. I think I'm the only one that's posted so far that I'm interested in dispatching. I guess Ken dispatches all the time. Maybe I don't know how that goes. And Mike would be doing the dispatching under Seligman likely, because he'd be spawning trains. So it makes it a little bit easier for him, so he can spawn the trains, AI them, do what he has to do, etc. But yeah, and then I was taking on, there was a little bit of a confusion, and we haven't really talked about it. There's a bit of a gray area between where I run Mojave sub down on the UP side. Just the way the screens are, because technically you go from you're still part of the same subdivision, but you're going down from the one screen to the other. So I'm not too sure if I think the way we were doing it was I was running the Mojave sub up to the cutoff there at the summit, where BNSF, I can't think of the name for some stupid reason. But anyways, right by the summit there on the Cajon sub, where the BNSF cuts off over to the UP Mojave sub. So right there That's basically the end of what I do on the Mojave sub. Then I do the BNSF Mojave sub, as well as everything in Barstow up to Hodge, I think. Is it Hodge, or I don't know which one it is. It's one of them. We know which one it is. It's easy to see. And then I do all the way up to the east side of Needles. And it's a little bit more than what I used to do for the West End, but I'm okay with it. I shouldn't say it's a little bit more. I don't know if it's necessarily that much more, to be honest. I'm trying to remember what the old split used to be. I think the old split used to be honestly, it's hard to say. I think it is a little bit more, just because the LA's in there, so that's, he's taking care of that, and Cajon. So, but the old split, I think, used to be Needles and Cajon, and then on the other side was the Mojave sub, including the BNSF side and the West End. So yeah, it's definitely a little more, for sure. But it's okay. I don't mind it. It's not too tiring, and when things weed out a little bit, I'd like to try something that's a little more relaxing, but there really isn't, and that's okay. I would much rather do this than have a snooze fest on a territory that's not that rewarding. So, I mean, I could try doing it. I honestly, LA, I'm asking for trouble if I just. It's not going to be more relaxing by any means. And Seligman, I imagine that's more relaxing, but at the same time, Mike can't be too busy dispatching when he has stuff to spawn. So yeah, so it was a lot different, the old split before LA, because then you just did Cajon and Needles. I'm trying to think if we did I can't remember if I dispatched LA. I'm beginning to wonder if I have ever actually died. I'm sure I have. I must have. It just doesn't seem. No, something, I probably didn't. But there was a time where I was doing it for a little bit, for a few hours there, and then I kind of backed off of it, and then I was doing my own thing for a little while and stuff like that. So yeah, it's hard to say. So as I was saying though before, the difference as far as with the RTS development, because of the distraction, that just means less time for me to develop RTS, which is okay. It may mean that I don't do it. And for the channel, I suppose it gives you an opportunity to see dispatching. I don't know if I'm going to have that big of a chance to actually show you what's going on. Now, when TSCAD does come out, as long as it's reasonable, I will purchase it. And that's when I would be interested in trying out the west side. Like going in and actually trying out Cajon and LA together. I'd be very curious what that's like. Just because there'd be a lot more. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. But then again, like I said, there's really no relaxing territory. The most, even Needles, Needles I would say is the most relaxing. I'm pretty sure Seligman is too. The San Bernardino sub, or sorry, what the hell am I talking about? The Cajon sub is kind of relaxing as well. But once you get, if you're doing the Cajon, you're doing the West End, so you're kind of isolated. You got a little bit of relaxation, you got a little bit of complexity. Mojave sub, there's not as much traffic, or usually there isn't, although I had quite a bit left over, and that's I think that has a lot to do probably with the way the random. I don't know if they were using he's using the random generator, to be honest. Maybe just the way the schedule worked. But he's talking about using more of the random generator too. So I don't know if he's going ahead with that or not. I just dispatch. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I mean, if it's busy or less, you know, I take it as it comes. So for me, not a big deal. You know, I was quite content last night. It's certainly not one of these things I could be doing while I'm doing, you know, doing chores in the back or whatever. I certainly, from a YouTube perspective, I don't know how rewarding it's going to be. It's not going to be like the old days where you just used to hang out and you'd set your routes up and then you would just come back. Now TSCAD will help that. That will help things tremendously. And as I become a little bit more less rusty, fluid, I guess would be the word, because I hadn't dispatched in a while, so it took a while to get used to the territories again, and you know, trying to remember some of the things that I was doing before, especially the train symbols, the looking up the train symbols. That takes a while. Eventually you start remembering those as well. But as I become a little bit more fluid, as you know, TSCAD does come along, hopefully, you know, honestly, I want it to succeed. I want Run8 to succeed too. Make no mistake about it. I want it to, you know, see that succeed. But once that comes along, hopefully the videos will be more inspiring. Hopefully it brings more people into it. Ideally, if I was to say and this is something that's been talked about, I think, I would love to see a server like Southwest, as big as it encompasses. I would love to see more sessions come about and more actual work activity take place. Now, in order to have more sessions, you have to have more work done. So that's the danger part, because what happens is you've already got three guys that are dispatching and or spawning trains. Mike obviously being the one that's spawning. You know, I think Ken was doing a little bit as well, but I'm not. At least he seemed to be. I'm not too sure what he was doing, to be honest. He must be. He must be spawning. Okay, he must have been spawning at the west end. I don't know how that was working out. I take it they were. I wasn't spawning anything. I wasn't told to, so I didn't. And I don't even think I think, you know, you have to be quote unquote admin knowing what you're doing. I mean, I'm not honorary admin, but I think I am anyways. But no big deal. You know, like I said, I've always had a good relationship with Mike. When I haven't been around, it hasn't been anything personal. It's just been, you know, my tastes have changed, or I've wanted to venture on my own projects and stuff like that, or RTS. So, but I'd love to see more sessions come about, and he talked a little bit about that, about having, you know, different train spawns, you know, that might bring in different times. The danger with it right now is you really need to have the people to support that system, because last night, now it didn't happen too much. Now here's a perfect example. There's somebody, I think it was Anya, who's been doing a lot of great work in Barstow, Mike was mentioning. So what happened was Barstow was very clean, and I think I brought 4 trains in. West Colton hadn't been touched, and West Colton filled up. So because, and this is back again to when you have such a big territory, these are the things that can happen even in 3 hours. If certain work doesn't get done, then suddenly, you know, these things happen. And if this expands anymore, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's the big thing. The work has to be done in between. Now, unfortunately, I'm not willing to do the work. And you might, think of like, well, gee, that's kind of selfish. You're just wanting to dispatch. Well, then again, dispatching's number one. The dispatchers seem to be needed or wanted, or appreciated the help. So it's a win-win, because they want to see, have the ability to have the dispatchers, but at the same time they also want, they want the dispatchers so that they could potentially run other sessions. At the same time, it's a win for me, because guess what? I get to dispatch again. I get to dispatch at a high level for something that's not just running my own trains. Because I can make up all the trains I want and just randomly spawn them and put them in Run8, because it would be okay, but then there would be no human interaction. You have to have some type of backbone or system, or not necessarily, but you should, especially considering if you're really simulating the locals, you should have something. That's where, if you don't have the system or some type of background or operating scheme in the background, that's where TD3 right here becomes more interesting. See, TD3, now this is actually my territory for Mac Tier. I was looking at this not too long ago. I think we were running it not a few months back or whatever, but yeah, when you're looking at say Atlantic, so this was a save file from, you're looking at the Waycross, a huge area of the Waycross. Now this goes all the way up to Savannah. That's an interesting. You got Savannah Yard, and there's a few other areas up there as well. But when you're looking at, say, something like this, okay, this does simulate the locals. It doesn't do a good job simulating these guys. These guys that are running, I'll show you what I mean. You go to the properties of this train, okay, and this is where I say, and I've always told people, I actually tried recruiting dispatchers way back in RTS1, Run8 version 1. I tried to recruit dispatchers. There was a time, then there was a time where I didn't want the dispatchers anymore, and people wanted to dispatch. It was really strange. But see, here's the train type. So look at this. You got intermodal, passenger, track car. That's the only ones? That doesn't seem right. No, that doesn't seem right. Okay, hang on a second here. I'm not too sure why that is, but that's a passenger. Okay, now there's a freight. Oh, there must have been more here. Oh, I see. Okay. Unknown passengers, so there's freight. So really all it has is, it doesn't even specify between HPT. And when you look at what that means, you look at a block segment, there's your specifications for speed. Run8 actually deals not only with the HPT values, but they deal with the mileages. So right away, Run8 is superior in dispatching a realistic train simulation, because it does a better job simulating the trains. Here, they just run the trains. This does a great job dispatching. Now, what's going to end up happening, I think, you'll have TSCAD come out. TSCAD will be probably very interesting for those that want to dispatch from the TD3 side of things, because it won't look like the external dispatcher. It's going to look a lot like TD3. Not quite like it, but it's going to have the features you'd come to expect, and even then some, from what I understand. So I am looking forward to that. I still have the back burner switching. Let me switch focus here. I'm just trying to make sure I've done what I've had to say about Southwest. So yeah, Southwest, the issue is going to be, like I said, West Colton, not enough work, blah blah blah. But there's people that do like doing that stuff, and more power to them. There's plenty of opportunity. When you're only running 2 sessions of 3 hours each, there should be plenty of opportunity. And if there isn't plenty of opportunity, that's when you need to run more sessions. So that's your balance right there. And I haven't looked. I mean, you know, for me now, because it's Mondays and Wednesdays, well, those are my 2 nights anyways. Maybe the Sunday, but I really don't want to get too distracted. There's still a side of me that wants to go on, and I'll segue right in back into the RTS side of things. And the reason why I keep segueing into that, I could easily say, you know, there's going to come a time, let's say, back on, just going on Southwest, and let me finish this up. Let's say, for example, we get enough interest of dispatchers, and suddenly we have more supply than demand. Well, what ends up happening is people have to take turns, or people should take turns. I certainly will. I will be more than happy to, even if I called it first, I'll be more than happy to give up a dispatcher position to anybody who wants to take a shot at it. And to be quite honest, if it was really in demand and people really insisted on doing it and didn't want to run trains, and there's still enough people to run the basics, there's really never a demand for the main lines themselves. Actually, there's actually a demand for switching. There's a lot of runs that need a dispatch session to allow them to switch, because they need CTC signaling to do their job, especially with LA and you know, some of the various jobs. There's a lot of different stuff out there. Unfortunately, even though the Southwest has got up to 14, which is great, really I still think you need close to 20. And honestly, I don't know what Run8 Depot Plus is pulling, but I cannot think that they're pulling much close to that. And I know from credible sources that last I heard, the AI on there, or running the AI, it's a lot more like RTS1 than it is anything that was current. So they, you know, the Southwest gives it a really good shot at it, but they're certainly pushing the limit, but the limit's pushing back at them, because they're trying to do so much territory, and they need to have so much work in between. And Mike's well aware of this. I'm sure he's well aware of this, and he's trying to think of different ideas. I haven't really been thinking of suggestions too much, although I did mention a few ideas, but it had more, I don't even know what the hell it had to do with, to be quite honest. I was suggesting that, you know, well, maybe you know, you got to think about smaller territories. The problem with that is, especially in California, if everybody has those territories, you're excluding people from running the full set of what they have, and that could potentially lose interest in people running. And I've seen it happen with me, even when, you know, before I was giving up all the time, as people like to say. So let me segue back into RTS now. how this all plays into play. Eventually I do want to get into the dispatcher, because not only do I want to have the elements of either a CTC machine. That was where I was originally going. You might have seen some of the green and red symbols on some of my screens. Those were lamps that I was actually harvesting up for some of the signal lamps on my panels for the CTC machines. So either we get to a situation where, you know, I'm ready to do that, like I'm basically ready to go in. I'm just trying to get my train of thought here of how I wanted to say that, because I kind of lost it there as soon as I said why I was saying that. I got distracted with that. This is just the way my brain works. So you've got the, you know, as far as the dispatch side of things, it's either going to be a CTC machine or it's going to be a modern simulation, and it would have all the things you would expect to see in not only a dispatching sim, but it would, you know, like a better version of TD3, but a lot of the features that are going into TSCAD, for example. Mind you, this won't be Run8 compatible because I don't have any linkage to external dispatcher unless that somehow becomes available. And the other thing, you know, in addition to that, I would actually use the mileages versus the blocks, and I would actually use the HPT values versus just making some standard train type. These hotbox detectors too, they work in the blocks, so there's real no mechanism here to yes, it counts the mileage between point A and point B of each block, and it shows the connector blocks, but it really doesn't have, it doesn't take into account the grades, how it reflects against, it doesn't take into any type of simulation in that matter. It's amazing how great TD3, but TD3 has been around for a long time, to the point where it's been unsupported for some time, and it's amazing that this is still one of the standards out there for train dispatcher, where in reality it doesn't do the greatest job. Now, it's got the greatest amount of user content out of all of them, which is really cool. I think that's what makes it kind of like the Microsoft train simulator of train dispatchers, when you think about it. Because look at Microsoft Train Simulator Open Rails, still running strong today. It has been, the similarities are very, very similar, except these guys supported their product, and it's not buggy. It really isn't. Not that I'm aware of, anyways. There might be an odd bug here or there, but this doesn't come with the bugs. Did they give up on the project? Yeah, eventually they did, and they stopped supporting it or whatever. But that's okay. It ran its course. They went on to other things, and then they brought it back. They actually are now making it available again. If you want, they'll do an unsupported version. So that's pretty cool. For me, this isn't a priority of mine, though. Getting an RTS dispatcher is not a priority of mine, because before any of that happens, I want to make sure that the trains themselves make sense. Each one of these trains, when you go into them, and you go into the properties, in TD3, let's say, see that length 1,000 feet? That's going to be with every train. The only cool thing that I like about what this does, randomizes, is the times. Although I have even some more advanced ideas as far as what to do with those. The big thing, of course, is AI dispatching. That's something, you know, I kind of thought a lot about last night. Despite the fact that I do have a design down, the AI dispatching is not going to be as good and as clever as a human. I was doing some very complicated moves and look aheads and stuff like that, and I realized that even I can make it as safe, you know, more on safety, but as far as real advanced thinking and advanced planning ahead of and looking at the trains that are coming down and thinking, okay, should I let this guy go? Efficiency wise, it probably will not be as efficient as a human, but it'll keep things going and hopefully not result in any cornfield meets, which basically is a dispatcher failure. And you know, it should do a much better job of routing, because us humans make those errors. Did I make one last night? No, one came out of the inspection, and then I realized that it shouldn't be there. But, oh no, there was one. I know there was one that I didn't. There was one I didn't route. I'm pretty sure there was one that I didn't route. Well, maybe not. Maybe that was the one I was thinking of. I thought there was. No, there wasn't. I thought there was twice, but they were already routed. So, yeah, I was fortunate, I think, as far as I recall. But I could be wrong. But I've misrouted before, so it's not a big deal. Those things happen, especially when you have a non-player behind the locomotive who doesn't call up dispatch and say, Mr. Dispatcher, why are we lying down this subdivision? We're not even qualified for it. You know, that kind of thing. Or looking at the signal and calling the dispatcher and thinking, that's kind of an odd signal for where we're supposed to be going. You know, you get a diverging down to Y, and you're like, why am we heading down the Mojave sub when we're supposed to be heading east on Needles? Or why do I have a clear when I'm supposed to have a diverging to get down the Mojave sub, etc., etc. Those kind of things. So the main focus, of course, for RTS is going to be back into the car forwarding side of things, and that for me is really where it comes into play. Now, this isn't going to be an easy task by any means. I was actually, I didn't get a chance to look at it. There was a post on the forum. Matt posted a nice, he's got a very good information. I haven't got a chance to read it yet. I think I'm going to save that for Sunday. But he's got a lot of information for me to ponder, and I'm going to compare it to some of the... I actually have written databases, you know, back in the time before we used to write all these things on computers. I don't even write on paper. I don't have a pen and paper around this place at all. Somebody wanted me to write something the other day, like write a note upstairs. I don't have any pens or papers around here. I'm like, I say I do everything on the computer, but back then I had a notepad and a paper and would design out little plans, and I had database designs, you know, and I think I'd be at my grandmother's, or I'd be, you know, we'd be maybe watching some boring TV, and I would be drawing out database designs. So RTS has been in development really for well over a decade or two, I would say, if not. It's literally been almost half my life, I would say, of development. This is something, it's definitely been over a decade. I can tell you that much. It's been something that has always been resonated with me, and then I get distracted, then I get into systems, and then I just apply them into systems. I've done it with Microsoft Train Simulator. I did it with Run8. Microsoft Train Simulator ran its course. It didn't work. Run8, I don't think it's going to work. It all depends what happens with version 3. As far as I can't see how it's going to work with version 2. Not unless there's some kind of update that comes, or version 3. Now, let me segue back to Run8. And then I'm going to try to end this, hopefully, at the bottom of the hour here. So, let me take a drink here, or else my throat gets dry. So, speaking of version 3, I've mentioned this as well. We are... I can't speculate enough. I know version 3 is under development. It's not rumored. It's been verified that it is under development by various sources or hearsay of, you know, might not hold in a court of law, but whether it be Facebook posts or whatever, it is under development. John is working on it, or he has been for some time. I don't know what's next with them. I know they're still, you know, here and there doing updates for version 2. Most of, I don't say all the updates, a lot of the updates are just, you know, a lot of the bugs and stuff like that for the most part. But most of the updates, I think, may be preparing for version 3, but I'm not sure. I can't think of some of the details of some of the stuff I've seen, but there was something, and I can't remember. I honestly, I can't remember what it was. But I had the idea as to where they were going. We know that, you know, one things we do know, you know, is turntables and movable bridges. I think Brad alluded to that. I can't remember what else, and this was on his Facebook post a while back. There is really no buzz, and I don't think there's a push either. I think they're going to take, you know, basically be very careful. Hopefully they'll get it while the ground is still warm. I wouldn't call it hot anymore, but it's still warm. Obviously there's, you know, people like myself and others that still have an interest in Run8. But I think the interest has declined despite the fact that there's new blood in there. I think the amount of new blood that's coming into Run8 versus the amount that's leaking out of it or not doing it as much, I think it's a deficit. It's a net deficit right now. That doesn't show up in their... I don't think that's really going to show up in their dollar figures or their sales. Perhaps on add-ons, maybe. Because I know I'm certainly haven't been as interested in purchasing add-ons for Run8 for a while. So, and that's a lot of it has to do with stuff now that it's expanding into stuff that I really don't want to get into, or I don't feel I really need. I mean, I saw Bear Table Trains last night. I've never got around, despite the fact that I'll buy some goofy game that I might run for only a few weeks, I've never got around to buying the latest Bear Tables. And they're a quality product. I just never bothered. Because it wasn't that important to me. I knew I knew what it was supposed to be. And for viewing or making it feel real and all that stuff, it didn't really matter. But here's the thing that I feel as someone who has been there since day one or before day one with version 1. The buzz that went in from version 1 to version 2. Not everybody was very high about purchasing version 2. There were some people that, tight on money or whatever, they really did not want to have to purchase a new version. The fact that everything was backwards compatible, some of it was had features for version 2 for the roots and the stock and a few other things, etc. But for the most part, the buzz for version 2 was pretty damn strong for a long time, because we had a pretty good idea. Well, we didn't have a pretty good idea. We were told basically some of the things that were coming. We didn't know everything, but we were told about the AI. We knew that was happening. We don't know what's happening with version 3 other than they've talked about turntables. Turntables and transfer tables, I think, was another one. Movable bridges. I'm sure there's something else I'm missing. But whatever it was, it really didn't get my interest or change anything. I'm more interested in TSCAD. But that's because I like dispatching. I don't run TD3 that often anymore. Or I haven't run TD3 in a while. I still do it because I like dispatching. I don't miss running the hump or running switchers or running main lines in Run8. I've done it, you know, and it's after you run it a few times and you're running the trains and stuff like that, if you really don't have that day-by-day feel to it and the progression that you feel inside a system, and it's not, you know, it's not really grabs you, then it just doesn't. And for me it hasn't, but I'm not the only one who feels that way, and this isn't trying to be negative towards Run8, because I just have said suddenly I'm, you know, running regularly in the Southwest server again, because it met my needs for dispatching. It was on the days that I want, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. That's why I followed the forums. I always wanted to see what they were up to. I wanted to see what ideas, you know, Mike. When I heard that, you know, all of a sudden they weren't doing dispatch sessions and Mike got busy and all that, yeah, I know people get busy, but, you know, a lot of times when I see that, I was like, I know he might be busy, but that's what I'm thinking in the back of my mind, and others were too. There were people that were genuinely concerned that this was another server that was going down. I tried putting my server back up. I hosted it for the Northeast. It was 24/7. It has been gone a little over a month now. And it wasn't missed. It wasn't interested. Nobody really gave a damn about it, besides myself for a little bit there. And then that was kind of the last straw for me, the last gasp of trying to do something server hosting for Run8. At that point, I was like, okay, I've had my fun. I've hosted enough. I'm done. Now I want to focus on my own things and maybe get out there and do some developing and build and own. And then suddenly, you know, ideas come, and who knows, maybe I would have hosted again had I got that World Changer module working for RTS2. But unfortunately, it's too complicated. Now, will version 3 change that? Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. But the thing about version 3 that's different between version 1 and 2, these changes that are coming, that I mentioned, I don't know how many people really care about them. Yeah, okay, there's some people, diehards, that are interested and, you know, that are really supportive, and you're just going to go out and buy it because, you know, they want to support the team and all that. Hey, I want to support the team too, but I know that right now I'm still spending more money than I'm making. I'm still looking for some type of monetary incentive for ideas. I've got a lot of car forwarding ideas. I mean, if I could possibly get involved in that, and that somehow became part of, say, Run8 version 3, that I can put my ideas of the car forwarding in there, well then, hey, if I can get a monetary kickback for that, well, sure. But you know something, I've kind of done those things in the past, and I really don't know. I mean, I'm on the record for saying it, and yeah, I've been on the record for being critical. Personally, I don't think I have the standing with Run8 anymore, despite the fact that we're on somewhat reasonable terms, I would say. I don't think my ideas are ever going to be implemented into Run8, or my designs, or my programming, or anything like that. I'm just not at that level. I'm not in that whole, you know, that, yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be great. I would love the opportunity, because there's a lot of things that I would love to see done, but that ain't gonna happen. That ain't my baby. RTS is my baby. That's a different story. So, as I said before, Run8 was a tool. But when I talk about, and I haven't really spit this out yet, the difference between version 2 and version 3, what that spells to me is greater division, I'm afraid. And you're going to see, while you could see opportunity from it too, there is the chance. First of all, what is one of the big servers like a Highball or Run8 Depot or Depot Plus going to do? We've already seen Run8 Depot Plus hold back on hosting certain routes, such as the Northeast, for example, because it's, you know, not popular, or, you know, not as interesting, or whatever the case may be. I'm pretty sure they only run a Southeast and a Southwest server for Depot Plus, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Or maybe I'm thinking is they got the 3 for the Depot Plus, but they don't have the other. And from what I heard the other day, the regular Depot server is dead. Southwest is kicking their butt, but then again, Southwest is doing operations minded. Run8 Depot, the regular server, the 24/7, it's not doing nothing, from what I understand. It's basically a ghost town. That's what I hear. I could be wrong. Hey, that's what I hear. So Depot Plus is where it's at. Everybody's, you know, basically encouraged. That's kind of the way I look at it, is that's almost like the proving ground for the rookies to start and you know, get some guidance or whatever. But everybody, including the rookies, are encouraged to get Depot Plus. So, you know, that's just the way it is. And it's a second tier. It's for them. Blah blah blah. But I'd be very curious what some of the bigger places are going to do when it comes down to a version 3. Are they just going to switch over to version 3 and not worry about version 2? Because if that happens, there's a few stragglers that still stuck with version 1. The biggest reason why is, well, besides some didn't want to spend any more money, the biggest reason is to be able to modify it. Because people were able to modify engines and told other people how to do it, and they started modifying and doing different things, and, you know, whatever. I mean, even if you can paint it green, blue, pink, I don't care what you do with the engines. I mean, it's still the same sim. No thanks. You know, not interested. But what may happen on a positive side is if some of the servers don't, or just become exclusive to version 3 because they're so devoted to version 3. And I don't know where Southwest stands on this. I really don't know what Mike's thoughts are on all that. But when version 3 comes along, unless it's something that is massively improved, and I would say AI operations, gameplay, I don't know what else. I mean, I don't even know, other than some of the ideas that I have for what should be, you know, as far as being able to manage crews, have the AIs that are more intelligent, that are be able to switch trains, a car forwarding system that's much improved compared to where it's at. It's a good start where it's at right now, it really is, but it can be much more improved. It's nowhere near to what RTS was. It does a few things that RTS didn't, like some of the automatic tagging and you know, stuff like that. But even how it does it, I don't, you know, there's a lot of things about it I don't like. But I put it up with a scheduling system. Okay, we were supposed to have that in version 2 from the beginning. Then we were supposed to have a Mobeta. Didn't happen. I've never seen it. I don't know when we were supposed to see it, or if we're going to see it towards the end. If not, it's probably, maybe it's going to be in version 3, maybe we'll never see it. I have no idea. These are a lot of the curious questions I have. And I'm not in, like I said, I'm not in the, you know, I know some of the not developers, I know some of the team. And, you know, they to their credit, they stick to the non-disclosure agreements. I do not get any information, nor do I ask for it, by the way, despite the fact that I am also under non-disclosure. So if they did tell me, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'd be very curious, but I wouldn't be able to tell any of you guys. But I'm still under the non-disclosure agreement because I was a beta team member. I've been told that there's certain things that, you know, I'm not supposed to talk about, blah blah blah. Well, you know, there's a couple of things that I can't talk about that I was told not to, and I'm like, okay, but it really has nothing to do with development. Current development had something to do with something else, but I'm not even going to get into that. You know, that's a private conversation as far as I'm concerned. I'll keep it that way. But yeah, that rift between version 2 and version 3 could mean an opportunity for those that decide to go all in from version 2 to version 3 with their servers. That'll be an opportunity for those who have been struggling to put a version 2 server out there that may be able to take advantage. Version 3, if it has editors, could also be a bonus. It'll bring more people in. The key here is you want to, if you're going to work on something, you want to increase your sales, and you want to increase your what do you call it, market percentage. So in other words, they want to gain market percentage, or market share, I should say. That was the term I was looking for. They want to be able to increase their market share, sell more units, get more gross revenue. In some cases, they may not be interested in that if it just becomes a better tool for allowing other things to happen. Editors is, I don't know. They could surprise us. If they threw editors in there, I could see this thing exploding. Because if they throw editors in there, suddenly now I'm interested. Not only that, but they would bring in a huge amount of people that have been on the fence with Run8. And not taken the jump because the lack of editors. If that came in, guarantee you that alone would make, you know. And the question is, yeah, there's a risk for them because they lose their one of their key business models, and that is third-party content. But I mean, they could do it. They could do it so that the way I always saw it, and I know I'm talking hypothetically speaking, and I know this is going longer, but this is okay. This is fun things to think about. Hypothetically speaking, the way I've always thought, if I was to do, if I was in their position and I wanted to maintain my market share from a business perspective, I would allow so many slots hard-coded that can only be run on the local computer based on that little code that's basically, you know, that security code or whatever the hell that damn thing is that links to your computer, so that somehow it's integrated into the world save file, or not the world save, the actual world files and the content files, so that you would have so many slots to be able to develop new worlds on your own or new content. So you have so many slots. Let's say you have, even if you had 5 slots or whatever. I was saying 10. Let's say it's hard coded for 10 slots, and they could change it for every update. All they have to do is change the code. So instead of it becoming automatically capable of being able to, and hopefully Mikey's listening to me. I know Mikey watches a lot, you know, at times, and I know you know, I really hope he understands, you know, my views on the Northeast as well. It's got nothing to do with his talents or the fact. It's just, for me, the Northeast. I've actually tried it a few times and tried to do different things with it. It's just there doesn't seem to be enough interest for it. Therefore, it's very difficult for me to do anything else in it. But it is a beautiful route. It really is. But I understand why there's not as much interest in it. But hopefully Mikey's still there and watching me, and maybe he can pass these little words. You know, he doesn't have to say it's for me. He can say it's his idea. I don't care. But Mikey, if you're there, let me know, Mikey. Send me an email. Let me know. Maybe I'll send you an email, and I'll tell you to clue into the end of this video. My idea for them, and you see, I want Run8 to succeed. I really do. This has nothing to do with RTS. You know, just for Run8 alone, I want to see them succeed. RTS, you know, whether it's compatible RTS or not, doesn't really matter. Sure, I would love it, but really, I just want to have fun. Yeah, sure, I want to make money too, but this is where this comes into play. What you do is you hard code the game to have 10 slots, or how many slots the programmers decide they want. Maybe 10 slots of worlds content or regions or whatever the heck they want to do. And then they have maybe 20 slots of rolling stock, because they have slots for every single piece of rolling stock that they have, and they have slots for every single route they have, or region. And have it linked to the security ID that you have to put in that links to your computer, so that only you can run it. In other words, you can't distribute it. You can run it. That means you can't do multiplayer either. For some, that may be discouraging, that you can't do multiplayer. Now, maybe there would be an option to have a local multiplayer, or the ability to share. I I don't know how you would do this. The ability to share with so many people, I'm not sure how that would work exactly, because ultimately Run8 needs to have, because if everybody was able to share things freely and just be able to do and use those 10 routes and do whatever the hell they want, then it becomes like Microsoft made money on selling Microsoft Train Simulator. They didn't make money on selling content for it. Yes, some people who had some really good quality content were still able to make money, including 3D Train stuff, I might add, and many other developers. I was seeing the other day there was a post on Train Sim, very good stuff. But anyways, I'm getting off topic here, and I want to get to the point of this. So you have those slots available, and you develop a route, or you develop some rolling stock, and you develop it on your own. Obviously you can't beta test it or do anything like that. I don't know if you can share it with a certain so many IDs or something like that, like I was saying, but let's just say it's just you, and you've developed the route, and you're testing it out on your own. You're putting in your own AIs, you're putting in your own spawn points, you're putting in all your own content, your own assets. Maybe you're able to, in the editor, you might be able to borrow assets from other routes or something like that. I don't know. Or you can somehow import your own assets. So you have the route editor, you have everything. Let's say you like what you have and you want to share it. Well, if you want to share it with the community, that it becomes part of the library or becomes part of the world database. And let's say, just like how TD3 had their little thing, they used to have a database of all the different routes, and I'm not too sure, I think they were the ones that updated it, but they had people who would add more territories to it, and then they would distribute it. Well, let's say, and now I know they did it for free, okay, but I'm just thinking of Run8. Let's say Run8 would then, if say for example you wanted to do something for free, well then Run8 could, let's say they wouldn't provide any support, but they would still charge a one-time admin fee for adding it to the code. What that fee would be, I don't know. How much would it take to add it? Would it be worth $10, $20? I don't know. I can't say. I don't know what price you put on that. And a lot of people would have that, so want to be able to include their user created content. Now a lot of people will say, well, hey, I'm doing this for free for the community. Why should I pay anything? Well, Run8 don't have to do anything either. They don't have to have editors. If they want to keep on having their closed thing, they can. The problem is they have to, in my opinion, they have to create content, or they have to have at least trusted sources, third-party content. Now I know third-party content is coming, or at least more third-party developers are coming, and that's a good thing, and there's going to have more regions and all of that stuff. That's been alluded to. I thought it was coming in version 2. So far I haven't heard anything. I don't know, maybe this is going to be something that's going to come out in version 3. So, and it looks like we're heading towards the top of the hour now instead of the bottom. But so you have those slots. That's how they make money on the free ones. They basically are able to upload to the Run8 server or upload via email that particular slot to the developers. It won't work on any other computer, but because the developers know your code, they can decode it, or they have a way of getting into it so that they can test it themselves, see if it meets their standards, or whatever standards that they've set that must be maintained. If it passes, you know, they add it to the database. Maybe they start a fee just to maybe they charge a fee just for them to analyze it. So they have a $10 fee to analyze it, and then a $10 fee to add it to the database. When they add it to the database, it comes out on the next update, and the updates come fast and furious because new content is coming out all the time. You've paid the one-time fee, and maybe the person that does it might ask for people for donations for Patreon or something like that. People do that all the time. You know, they'll send a $1 tip, or they'll do a live stream or something. Just do one YouTube live stream. And that's the other thing too. People can actually market what they're developing by showing it on YouTube and saying, hey, I mean, heck, the people who are cracking or whatever the hell they were doing with version 1 were doing YouTube videos showing all their stuff. So I mean, people can market this stuff. People can get people. There's a lot of buzz that can get up for Run8 for that kind of thing. So editing and being able to do that is great. But here's the other big one. If you want to make money, and if Run8 wants to have a chip of the pie, just like how Unreal 4 and some of the game engines actually get a piece of the pie, or even places like Steam, well, guess what? If Run8's going to add something that you want to make money for, let's say for myself, let's say I want to take a shot at developing something, so I create a route. Now it's up to them whether or not they want to include it. They, you know, I spend that $10 fee for them just to analyze it. Okay, $10 here, guys. What do you think? And they look at it and they think I'm a rookie, and no. Well, now I have a route that I can play with myself, and I can keep adding it. And if I want to put another $10 fee down the road when I think I've bettered my skills, or maybe within that $10 fee they offer feedback and, you know, a little bit of, you know, of continued support, at least on saying what you need to improve to meet our standards, etc. So they've done that, but let's say not only did it meet the standards, but they say they'll include it, but you as a developer or a third-party developer want it added on. Guess what? They've just become a third-party developer. Just over, you know, just like that. And they did it because they made a decision. So they signed some type of agreement or whatever the heck the case may be. Just, you know, basically an application. They don't even have to sign an agreement. All they have to do is an application form, even if it's online. As long as they agree to it and click a box, they're legally bound by it. And then what happens is, from there, Run8, it's sold on Run8's website. So everything is sold through Run8. Run8 takes their cut, and the ones who actually develop it get the royalties. So Run8 will continue to host it. There might probably an agreement in there about you know, limitations as to how long the service would last for, you know, guarantee. There'll be all kinds of legal things too that I'm sure they would have to get into, and I'm sure they'd be fine at doing that. But that's how you can incorporate the editors. You create those little free, you have to have it. And that's the thing, the way they have it set up, it's a closed system, so everything, if you have it just read anything that's on your disk, yeah, you can have it do that too, but that opens up a whole can of whatever the hell they don't want. Because if you can just have it read whatever's on the disk, they've now lost control over their product as far as third-party content goes. On the other side, if they're not interested in doing it that way, they could go the Microsoft Train Simulator route and decide, you know, we're just gonna leave this open to the masses, put a cool editor in there, and see how it goes, and just, you know, keep on offering updates or whatever. But eventually that curve dies down, and you become like every other simulator, a la, hey, let's you know, let's be like, for example, let's be like 2K games for you know, the various sports franchises out there, wrestling. Every year they update their rosters, and then they make some subtle improvements to the game, but it's really the same game. I mean, that's the only other way they can go about doing it, to really to make it stand out. And then a lot of people, especially because they're not content based, I mean, yeah, there's some diehards that'll go through it, and they have bigger studios. For a smaller company, that ain't gonna work. It just takes too long to develop these things, and they've put a lot of work, well over a year, I'm sure, at this point, into version 3. I'm pretty sure they've laid the groundwork for a while now. At least that's my guess. And when this is supposed to go, I heard at least the idea was something by the end of this year. We're getting closer to that. Now, that don't mean nothing. They've been late before. It's no big deal. They were late at their first release, so nothing would surprise me. But no, that's exactly what I would do if I was to do it. But hey, that's just my idea. For me personally, I can tell you, as someone not only who wants the option of, and the added bonus of having editors, my son would love it, by the way. My son would become a Run8 fan if there was editors, I guarantee you, because he loves to create. And even if it's just for, you know, a route that's on his computer, like I said, maybe the ability to have local, like a LAN, instead of a server, like a LAN based, so that if anything, you can have at least a LAN type server. I don't know how the hell you do that, like borrow the same route or download the assets or something. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how the hell that would work. But just having it, and being able to see it, and discover it and create it, and you know, and if you're lucky, it gets added to the, you know, if you're lucky and you've done a good enough job and it meets, you know, all it is, for the most part, as long as it doesn't create a nightmare for them, and they get paid for it. They got to get paid for it. That's the bottom line. They got to be paid for their work. If there's a lot of work involved, they need to. I mean, they have. I'm pretty sure that they have hired help as far as the not technical support, but there is some position in there that they have customer service. I think they have hired, or they have at least one hired customer service person in there, at least part-time. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it sounded like they were. So they have those things in play, but they need to be paid if they're going to provide this extra content. That's the only way, to me, version 3 is going to stand out. Either that, or version 3 gets really, really super massive with their AI, like some of the AI ideas I have for RTS, or even some of the car forwarding for RTS. If those things get included and changed and overhauled, great. Switch, you know, swing bridges, lift bridges, turntables, transfer tables. Hey, that's great. A lot of people want them, but guess what? Once they're there, you know, okay. That's the way I look at it. I mean, it would be cool and all, but I would be like, oh, okay. I remember the southeast route when I saw that there was swing bridges, and I thought, well, okay, well, there's signals blocking it, but they don't really do anything. That'd be kind of cool to see them work, but at the same time, how many times are you actually running a train? I mean, it happens over here at the Welland Canal. I mean, I see a lot of times where the train has to wait because the ships are going through, and the ships have the right of way. That only works with shipping canals. These smaller canals, the ones with the boats, like smaller boats and stuff like that, even though the maritime does somewhat have the right of way to some extent, especially the ones, most cases, some of these smaller canals, the railroad is given the right of way. And the maritimes, they just basically keep the bridge, they'll keep the bridge open as long as the train doesn't come, and when a train's coming around, they'll close it. And the trains aren't going to see it. They're not going to see the bridge closing and opening as much. I mean, it's possible, but the likelihood of it happening, nah, not really. Unless it's a small line. If it's on a major line, nah, I don't think so. I don't think any of those lines, I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. But, yeah. No, I just don't, I don't see it being a big deal. I mean, the turntables, okay, that'd be kind of cool. The transfer tables, okay, that'd be kind of cool, but, you know, and there's a lot of other things that never really got developed to full, like engine breakdowns. Servicing got started, but it could have gone a lot further. That was something that I thought got introduced in version 1. Towards the end was the engine breakdowns and servicing, if I'm not mistaken. Then there was another way they wanted to do it. I mean, they used to blow their little gaskets, or whatever the hell they call it, the turbos or whatever. And that got taken out because it wasn't working the way John wanted it, or something like that. But it was kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, they could bring some of that back, but is it going to really make it? I mean, everything's a curve. Everything's that, I don't know if it's the bell curve or whatever the hell it is, or whatever. I mean, you push so far up. At some point, unless you bring something else into the table that turns it into a totally different simulator, you're really, all you're doing is you're adding stuff that, I mean, this is 6 years of development already, and it's changed a lot, but it changed a lot more on version 1 between beginning to end. Mind you, they had a longer run. Version 2, I haven't seen that much changes. Yeah, shadows, okay, granted. I think there was some other, you know, things that were in there as well. But I even said about how even having the filters, or, you know, the waybills, I mean, was a great feature. You know, it really made the car forwarding, but in retrospect, after a while, I mean, it just really didn't matter for me personally. But anyways, well, we're past the bottom of the hour. We're now past the top, and I think I'm calling it. That's it. And my cola is damn warm, so obviously I've been yapping for a while, and my throat's sore again. So I've been yapping too much. So yeah, that's it, guys. So anyways, have a good weekend. I'm gonna enjoy mine. Gonna be warmer than cooler or something, but I don't know what, but I'm just gonna enjoy it. I don't care. And yeah, I'll probably be back on Sunday at some point. Monday, like I said, Monday I know what's going on. I'm dispatching in the Southwest, as far as I know. So definitely we'll be covering that for 3+ hours. So that'll be cool. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern. So that'll be good if you enjoy watching the dispatching, and hopefully I'll try to be able to get a little bit more rail cam views or different action views and stuff like that. We'll see how it goes. It depends how the traffic flows are. I'm probably going for the same position for now. I mean, I enjoy it. We'll see how the other guys feel if they want to change, but you know, I'm open to change as well. That's no big deal. But you know, since I'm accustomed to it, I'm gonna probably ask for the same thing and see if everybody, you know, is happy with what they got, and you know, it's up to them. They're the senior members, not me. I'm the junior guy again. Haven't been around long enough, so or recently anyway. So and Mike, obviously it's his server, and then, you know, he's doing his end. He's probably going to stick with his end, I imagine, so it'll just be up to Ken and I more than likely if Ken's running. But yeah, we'll see who else, if anybody else is on or whatever too. So hopefully we get some people out for that. I'd really like to see the numbers increase. That'd be great. A lot of work out there for people like work. You know, as far as me, and I know I'm blabbing again, as far as my interest in running, I number one, I don't have as much time, but really I don't miss it. I just don't. You know, it's run its course as far as that. I haven't really gotten into that. Yeah, I'll have fun every now and then, but running as amount the time that I used to is just no. Something smaller would be very interesting to run for me personally. If it was something that it was a smaller route, then I'd be more appealed. I'd be more interested in running versus dispatching. But when you got something this big, similar to this, or something that's class 1, I definitely look forward to dispatching more, because it's more of the challenge for me personally. It's more of the action. It's more of the interest, what I like doing. So anyways, my voice is gone, so it's time to call it. So have a good weekend, guys, and I'll be back on Sunday. Take it easy.